Good afternoon. You're watching Business World Live. I'm Jes Delos Santos. Let's take a look at how the local bourse closed today. That is Wednesday. The index unable to recover from the slump that we did see on Tuesday. As you can see in this chart right here, we're still in the negative territory here with the index closing the day down 0.2% to 7,242.85. It has so far declined by as much as 0.7% over the past 3 days. Net foreign selling persisting as well for the second day in a row. That's valued at 220 million pesos. Majority of the sectors, in fact, are in the red. Looking at this map right here, you'd see here, majority of our indices are ending the day in the negative territory. Property slumping the most here, down by as much as 1 3/10%, followed by industrials also ending the day in the negative at 0.7%. However, at the same time, we try to take a look at the financial space here. One of our bright spots here for the index up 1 7/10%. Majority, in fact, of our financial players here, if you try to take a look at how they are performing, you'd see a majority of them, in fact, are one of our best performers here. The likes of BPI as well as Security Bank and Metro Bank. Metro Bank, in fact, ending the day edging higher by 3 2/10%, as well as Security Bank up 3%. BPI likewise also ending the day soaring by as much as 2% here. But taking charge really of what's happening here, at least in the index here, majority of our performers here, at least what's driving the movement here, at least on the upside here, would have to be the mining counter. The best performing counter so far, they are up at least 2 1/10%. As you can see here, Global Ferro-Nickel Holdings, in fact, up by 4.9% here. So what gives? This is oil prices position actually for its longest rally yet in almost 2 years, with futures in New York even surging for the 7th day to $54 a barrel. That's following an industry report suggesting another decline in U.S. crude stockpiles, adding stimulus for a new year rally pushed by output cuts as well in Saudi Arabia. But if you try to take a look at this chart right here, it's actually the nickel producers that's been taking charge of the counter here. Like what I mentioned, Global Ferro-Nickel is up by 4 9/10%. Even Nickel Asia also here in the green, 3 3/4%. You also have the likes of Mark Ventures. We're going to take a look at how Mark Ventures is performing. But really, the top gains again coming from the local nickel producers. What gives? That's on the back of prospects of stimulus packages in the U.S., improving demand for copper and nickel. Recall that U.S. President-elect Joe Biden, who is close to being inaugurated, is set to unleash new proposal for package amounting trillions, which is expected to boost the manufacturing sector, eventually helping the recovery of the industrial metals industry. As you can see here, Mark Ventures, in fact, leading the charge here. You have Mark Ventures now even ending the day up by as much as 10 8/10% at 1 pesos and 85 centavos a piece. Now let's check in as well on some other specific stocks here. We have Globe ending the day in the green after that Tuesday slump. The stock is trading at 2,046. That is up by as much as 1 3/10%. Now they are preparing to make their 5G service available to more areas in the country this year after setting up sites in at least 800 areas in Metro Manila and Rizal, as well as close to 20 sites in the Visayas and the Mindanao region. Some areas in Cavite, Laguna, and Bulacan are also 5G enabled. Now, Globe saw its 9-month net income last year fall by as much as 10% to 15.9 billion pesos. The telco provider says it would build more fiber to home connections this year to address rising internet demand. Now, on the other hand, you also have Dito. They are ending the trading day in the positive territory, up 1% to 12 pesos and 8 centavos. This is Dennis Ui's communication entertainment arm, Dito CME, announced that it is venturing into online education with global learning technology Cloud Swift. Now, the two firms will develop a Philippine-focused online education platform called sorry, double check on this one. It's called Luna Academy, anchored on job-ready digital skills. Dito CME clarifies, however, that the agreement was only made through a non-binding term sheet and is not yet a joint venture. Luna Academy seeks to provide affordable and convenient learning and training through a blended approach using modules and webinars. Luna Academy also aims to award world-class industry certifications from partners like Microsoft, Alibaba, and Google. The platform sets its beta launch sometime this year. Now let's head on over to one other interesting movement here. You have cryptocurrency, which seems to be starting the year on a wrong foot. That has declined by as much as 20% on Monday. It in fact is stretching that yet again by as much as 6.8% earlier in the day to around $32,000. It has somehow pared back those losses to somewhere around 2.5%. As you can see right now, it is priced at 33,800, close to 33,900. Really, question now is it headed for its worst week since March last year? Now, to talk about what's happening with cryptocurrency and Bitcoin in particular, we have Nichel Gaba. He is the CEO of Philippine Digital Asset Exchange. Good afternoon, Nichel. Great that you could join us this afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Jess. Thanks for having me here.
All right,
Yes,
so as you can see here right now, we're seeing a bit of a tumble again with a Bitcoin here. What's up, or better yet, what's down with Bitcoin as of late? Why the slide?
that's a great question. And actually, I think this slide comes on the back of consecutive days of all-time highs for Bitcoin. We saw Bitcoin go up from its previous high of 20K early or towards the end of the year, going up to 40K in a matter of weeks. So not a lot that's is worrying the market right now. A lot of us see that this is a natural correction arising from profit taking. And a lot of confidence is still in the fact that um, a lot of institutions, have yet to be able to take part in Bitcoin. So as soon as we see more institutional interest materialize, we should see a bit more price uptick. And we'll also see the price become more well supported going forward, just because it's no longer just speculative retail traders that are participating in Bitcoin.
So would you say then that this pullback primarily is just short term, just driven primarily about how people are taking their cash back, cashing in on fast money? Would you say the momentum is going to be sustainable, or is it losing grip?
Well, to assess long-term trajectories of asset prices, we really have to look at the underlying fundamental narrative. And the narrative for Bitcoin, at least since the start of 2020, has been super clear, right? It's seen as an alternative to gold because it shares a lot of the qualities of gold, being scarce, not controlled by any one government, and it's practically traded everywhere. So that narrative still holds, and we are still coming off of a pandemic that will require a lot of fiscal stimulus from many jurisdictions around the world, thereby leading to inflationary pressures. Again, so that digital gold narrative is still holding firm, and we expect this longer term trend to continue.
Does this mean as well, Michelle, that we should at least erase any fears, that this is going to be a rerun of what happened in 2017, in which you had Bitcoin rising to record highs and then eventually going on a collapse? Should this be feared, or does the current price have more legs?
That's a great question. So I will say first that Bitcoin will likely remain very volatile, and I'll explain a little bit why I think that's the case. But to answer your question about are we seeing a repeat of 2017? I don't think so. So part of what drove the run up of prices in 2017 was highly speculative participation in ICOs. I don't know if you remember this, but a lot of people were becoming millionaires overnight, and Bitcoin happened to be the gateway currency into these ICO markets. But in 2020, the narrative is not about speculation or greed. But in 2020, the narrative was really very defensive, and we also saw a lot of institutions participate in Bitcoin in 2020. So the likes of Square, macro hedge fund investors like Paul Tudor Jones, and it was then followed by a lot of institutional support, right? So we also saw crypto custody shops opening up, regulations around cryptocurrencies opening up as well, which will usher in more institutional participation. So long story short, this run definitely has more legs, and it's primarily institution driven.
Okay, good thing that you mentioned that. How dependent really is Bitcoin on institutional investors, and is this going to be a bit of a boon or a bane? What are the risks as well?
Right. So prior to 2016, definitely a lot of the interest in Bitcoin has been retail,
Mm.
enthusiasts, or speculative. But now the narrative of Bitcoin being digital gold and really as a way for investors to hedge against country-specific risks or jurisdictional risks is very firm and holding. I mentioned earlier that I do think that it will remain volatile,
Mm.
but this is the kind of volatility that you see with any emerging asset class. The fact that not everyone who has an opinion about Bitcoin is able to take part in the marketplace just yet means that as they enter the market, you're still going to see a lot of volatility. So, market cap of Bitcoin right now is hovering around $500 billion. It's still quite small relative to its potential.
Mhm. Okay, given that something you've been harping on, Bitcoin is expected to remain as a volatile asset class. Question now is, how can one buy Bitcoin safely?
Fantastic question. So obviously, a lot of assets carry risks, right? And with great risk comes great returns. Really, risk tolerance depends a lot on how much we put in and what's the time horizon that we have for our portfolios. So, for those of you who want to dabble into cryptocurrencies, again, not to give any specific investment advice, but it's always a good idea to start small, particularly with something that's quite volatile, and just participating in the market with a small allocation of portfolio should be a safe way to go. And also to always deal with regulated exchanges. And the reason for that is we still see a lot of scamming incidents here in the Philippines, unfortunately. You send your money, you don't ever get anything in return. So to avoid that, only deal with BSP licensed institutions.
Okay, that's a good start. At least deal with licensed investors as well. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon, Nichel Gaba, CEO of Philippine Digital Asset Exchange. Now, here are other headlines we're keeping our eyes on. Central Bank Chief Ben Diokno says there may be no need to touch banks' reserve requirement at this time with the economy on the cusp of recovery. In today's Businessworld forum, Diokno noted ample liquidity in the system and that any additional cut in RRR may take place once recovery speeds up. Diokno said the Philippines may see a 6.5 to 7.5% growth this year on the back of vaccine optimism, the early passage of the 2021 budget, and the resumption of build projects. As for bad loans hitting record highs in 2020, Diokno said the figure still remains at a manageable level. While a contraction in GDP of as much as 9.5% is seen for 2020, Diokno said there's much hope this year and the next, with growth picking up to pre-pandemic levels by mid-2022. Unemployment rate is also seen returning to 2019 levels at 5 to 7% by the middle of next year. Here's Governor Diokno explaining the BSP's basis for the outlook. Take a listen.
The build, it's now on stream. Many projects that are done not only by the government but also the private sector are being completed with the recovery in the world economy. So our trade will pick up, and we expect the Filipino remittances to also pick up significantly in Q this year and next year.
Now, the House Committee on Constitutional Amendments has started deliberations on proposals to tweak economic provisions of the 1987 Charter. And in doing so, panel chairman, ako Bicol Party List Representative Alfredo Garbin, has declared the committee as a constituent assembly. This is despite conflicting jurisprudence on the matter, which requires resolutions from both chambers to convene Congress as one constituent assembly. Panel Vice Chairman Lawrence Defensor is supporting Garbin's position. However, Garbin's declaration is not sitting well with a number of lawmakers. Albay Representative Edsel Lagman pointed that a ConAss must be a joint meeting of congressmen and senators. He said no committee of either chamber can sit as ConAss. Isabela Representative Tony Pet Albano proposed that the deliberations should instead be called a committee hearing to propose a ConAss that will propose for amendments to the Constitution. Gabriela Representative Arlene Brosas said the panel cannot assume the convening of a ConAss on its own without a separate resolution and without the express consent and approval of the Senate. Recall that Speaker Lord Alan Velasquez's proposal stated that Congress should convene as constituent assembly and approve amendments by 3/4 votes of all lawmakers, with each chamber voting separately. And those are the biggest news this trading day, January 13, 2021. Catch Businessworld Live again tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. with Danny Laurel. I'm Jes Delos Santos. We are One News.